In September 2022, Ukraine took a significant step in the fight against the invading Russian forces by expelling them from several regions that had been under military occupation for months.
It was a successful offensive that showed that the Ukrainian army is well armed and trained for offensive actions. However, Russia was not satisfied and warned that it would respond with all the weapons in the Russian arsenal, including nuclear weapons, if Ukraine dared to advance on Crimea. Crimea is a highly coveted territory due to its strategic position at the northern end of the Black Sea and has changed hands several times throughout history. Since 1783, Crimea belonged to the Russian Empire, but in 1945 it lost its autonomy and became an oblast of Russia.
In 1954, Crimea was transferred to Ukraine, according to the decree on the transfer of Crimea from Russia to Ukraine. The reason for the transfer, as stated in the decree, was the close ties between the region and the Ukrainian territory, particularly economic and cultural ties between the people and territories. This helps to explain why, when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, Crimea remained as an oblast of Ukraine, formally integrating into the Ukrainian territory. Crimea, as part of Ukraine, was recognized by Russia in 2 treaties signed by Boris Yeltsin. In 2003, 2 more recognition treaties were signed by the Russian government, this time by Putin himself. Despite this recognition, in 2014, after the fall of pro-Russian Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, Putin ordered the first Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russian forces left Sebastopol and invaded government buildings, blocking access between Crimea and Ukraine. The formal annexation took place on March 18, 2014. Since the annexation, Putin has implemented a rigorous process of Russification in Crimea, replacing the citizenship of local residents who became Russians in just 3 months, and invested heavily in major infrastructure, notably the Crimean Bridge over the Kerch Strait, which now connects Crimea directly to Russian territory. Crimea has always been considered a Russian territory by Vladimir Putin. The annexation of Crimea represented, for some, the first Russian expansionist action, culminating in a second invasion 8 years later. After the invasion of Crimea, Putin made a great effort to fully integrate Crimea, with multi-million-dollar investments in infrastructure and connection works with Russia, including the construction of a physical bridge. As a result, the majority of the Russian population considers Crimea as an integral part of Russia, despite it being taken by force. In this sense, the loss of Crimea would be very traumatic for the Russians, calling into question Putin's ability to control political forces that are vital for his political survival, favoring the resurgence of internal separatist groups. Imagine a fragmentation of Russia. According to the Russian protocol to authorize the use of nuclear weapons, only when the existence of Russia is at risk would the use of these weapons be justified. That is why Russia threatens to use nuclear weapons to prevent the loss of Crimea, and if we follow the reasoning we have developed so far, this threat does not seem totally unrealistic.